Hi, I'm Daniel Miller, 38, high school English teacher, father to the coolest 8-year-old girl on this planet, Lily. I wasn't supposed to be at that wedding. Not really. I was just a fusty one, filling in for a friend who caught the flu last minute. Honestly, I hadn't worn a suit in years, and the idea of being around people dancing and drinking while I checked my phone for Lily's texts wasn't my definition of a good Saturday. But life's strange like that. Sometimes, you walk into a room full of strangers and leave with a story you'll never forget. The wedding was held at this gorgeous vineyard outside the city. Soft jazz in the background, lanterns hanging like stars over the dance floor, and people laughing with that kind of ease you only see in movies. I stayed near the bar, sipped on club soda, and texted Lily back and forth while everyone else seemed to live in their own little fairy tale. I was fine with that, really. I'd gotten used to being the guy on the sidelines since my wife passed 5 years ago. No pity please, just facts. Life moves on and you build new routines. Then, just as I was checking the time and considering an early exit, she walked in. She wore a burgundy dress that looked like it belonged to another era. Elegant, simple, breathtaking. Her hair was curled softly. Her heels clicked with confidence, but her eyes scanned the room like she was searching for an escape. She was the bride's cousin, I overheard. Came in late. Alone. Nobody seemed to notice her arrival except me. She grabbed a glass of champagne, stood near the dance floor, and avoided eye contact like a professional. 15 minutes later, a tall man in a navy suit walked toward her. His shoulders tense, she stiffened. Something between them felt off. I watched her jaw tighten as he approached. Then she turned, looked straight at me, and before I could blink, she walked over. "Hi," she said, breathless. "I know this is weird, but would you dance with me? Please." Just before he notices, I blinked. "Wait, what?" She gently took my hand. "You're not with anyone, right? I just need 2 minutes, please." "Now? I've done a lot of things in my life I wasn't ready for. Diaper changes at 3 a.m. school plays with broken microphones. But slow dancing with a stranger at someone else's wedding, that was new." Still, I nodded. She smiled. A quick, nervous flicker, and we stepped onto the floor as the band played a soft Sinatra cover. She placed one hand on my shoulder, the other still holding mine like it anchored her. She didn't look at me for the first minute, just kept her eyes somewhere over my shoulder. "You okay?" I asked quietly. "Yeah," she said. Then, after a pause, "No, not really." The man in the navy suit stood by the edge watching us. His arms were crossed, mouth tight. He didn't look happy. "He's my ex," she said under her breath. "We broke up 6 months ago." He cheated. "And now he's dating someone else." Still showed up like nothing happened. I nodded, tightening my grip slightly. "Classic wedding move." She chuckled, just a little. "I didn't come to cause drama," she continued. "But I didn't want him to think I came here to cry either." "So you grabbed the least threatening man in the room?" She smiled. "You looked safe. Kind." I don't know what made my heart clench more, her words, or the fact that it had been a long time since anyone described me that way. As the song faded into another, we didn't leave the floor. "So what's your story?" she asked. "Single dad," I replied. "Teacher, expert bedtime storyteller. Also happened to be a decent listener." Her eyebrows lifted. "That's so," I nodded. "My daughter Lily would love you. You remind me of her." Brave without realizing it. The compliment hit her harder than I expected. She blinked, looked away for a second, and then whispered, "Thank you." We danced 2 more songs. Talked about books, travel, family. She told me her name was Clara. She loved old movies and always burned garlic bread. I told her about Lily's obsession with dinosaurs and my irrational fear of cruise ships. The ex eventually disappeared. By the end of the night, I walked her to her car. She turned to me with that same spark she had when she first pulled me into the dance. "I didn't expect any of this tonight," she said softly. "Me neither." She hesitated, then leaned in and kissed my cheek. "Thank you, Daniel, for seeing me." And before I could respond, she slipped into her car and drove away. That was it. No number exchanged. No last name shared. But somehow it didn't feel like the end the next morning. As I poured cereal into Lily's bowl and tried to convince her that brushing hair was in fact part of being a civilized human, I couldn't get Clara out of my mind. There was something about the way she said thank you that kept replaying in my head. Not dramatic, not flirtatious, just genuine, like she hadn't been seen in a long time. I even considered calling my friend, the one whose invite I filled in for, to ask the bride about Clara. But I stopped myself. It felt intrusive. Maybe that moment on the dance floor was enough. A shared breath in time. A kindness exchanged between two people who needed it. Still, part of me hoped I'd run into her again. Not because of some fairy tale idea of love at first dance, but because she reminded me how alive people could feel when they're simply kind to each other. 3 weeks passed. Life went on. One afternoon, I was helping set up for our school's annual family reading night. Lily had insisted on wearing her author glasses, bright red fake spectacles that made her look like a tiny librarian. I was setting out books on a table when I heard Lily whisper loudly, "Dad, that lady's dress looks like a raspberry." I turned to apologize, and my heart skipped. It was Clara. She froze too, eyes locking with mine like she wasn't sure if I was real or part of a vivid memory. "Clara," I said, almost disbelieving. She blinked, then smiled slowly. "Daniel." Lily tugged my sleeve. "You know her?" Clara knelt. "You must be Lily. I've heard you like dinosaurs." Lily's eyes lit up. "Do you like dinosaurs?" I mean, who doesn't? That was all it took. The two were instant friends. Turns out, Clara had just transferred to the school district. She was starting a role in their mental health outreach program. The reading night was her first introduction to the families. We talked for almost an hour while Lily made her red Danny and the dinosaur twice. By the end of the night, Clara leaned in and said, "I wasn't sure I'd ever see you again." I smiled. I was hoping I would. And just like that, something quiet but powerful began. No fireworks, no dramatic declarations, just two people meeting again, not by chance but maybe by kindness. And this time, no one had to say, "Before he notices," because no one was watching. We were exactly where we were supposed to be. In the weeks that followed, Clara and I kept running into each other. At first, it was casual, hallway smiles at school, quick chats during drop-offs, shared coffee during teacher workdays. But it didn't stay casual for long. One Friday evening, after Lily's school play, where she played a very convincing tree, Clara came up to us in the parking lot holding a bag of cookies. "Post-performance reward," she said, grinning. "These are Lily approved." "Right." Lily tore the bag open before I could answer. "Dad," she said, mouth full, "can we keep her?" Clara and I burst into laughter, and just like that, she became part of our little world. One chilly evening, Clara and I sat on the front steps of my porch sipping tea while Lily slept inside. Clara pulled her knees up, resting her chin. "You know," she said quietly, "that day at the wedding, I didn't just grab your hand to get away from him. I grabbed it because you looked like you understood what it's like to be alone in a room full of people." I nodded, because I do. She looked at me then, really looked, past the polite smiles and small talk. I was tired of being strong, tired of pretending I was over it. "You didn't pretend with me," I said. "You were just real." She reached for my hand, and this time there was no urgency, no escape, just warmth. Spring rolled in. One Saturday evening, I was making pasta, music playing low in the background. Lily was painting in the next room, humming a tune only she knew. Clara stepped into the kitchen barefoot, wearing one of my old college hoodies. Sinatra was playing again, just like at the wedding. "Remember this song?" she asked, smiling softly. I nodded. "Dance with me," she whispered. I set down the wooden spoon, took her hand, and we danced, right there between the fridge and the counter. Slow, unrushed, honest. No one was watching. No one needed to. Months passed. Seasons changed. Lily started 3rd grade with Clara helping her pick out her first pair of glasses, just like mine. We spent weekends cooking, building blanket forts, reading stories, and sometimes we'd go to weddings together. Never as strangers. People would ask how we met. I'd glance at Clara, and she'd always smile. "Well," I'd say, "I was just a guest." Then she grabbed my hand and said, "Dance with me before he notices." But no one really noticed what happened after that, except us. One rainy afternoon, I found a folded piece of paper tucked into my jacket pocket. It was Lily's handwriting, big, loopy, full of spelling errors and heart doodles. It read, "Dear Dad, I like how you laugh more now. I like that Clara makes pancakes with chocolate chips even when it's not Saturday. I like that she calls me her favorite dinosaur expert. I think Mom would be happy you're not sad anymore. Love, Lily." I read it twice, then a third time. That night, after Lily went to bed, I showed it to Clara. She read it quietly, then looked up at me, eyes shimmering with tears. "She's incredible," Clara whispered. "She is," I said. "And so are you." A few weeks later, we were invited to another wedding. This time, not as strangers, not as side characters. This time, Clara caught the bouquet on purpose, and Lily giggled so hard she spilled juice all over my shirt. As we walked out into the moonlight, Clara nudged me. "You know what I love about weddings now?" "What's that?" They remind me that second chances don't come wrapped in perfect bows. Sometimes they start with awkward dances and borrowed smiles. I looked at her, really looked. This woman who once danced with me out of fear, but now walked beside me out of love. Maybe that's what makes them real, I said. Later that night, Lily fell asleep in the back seat, and we sat on the porch again, just like we had that chilly evening months ago. Clara leaned on my shoulder and whispered, "You saved me that night." I smiled. "You saved me too. Just took me a little longer to realize it." She looked up at me with those same eyes, the ones that had once searched a crowded room for an escape. Now they were still, at peace. "Let's keep dancing?" I said. She nodded, even when there's no music. You see, it wasn't a grand gesture that changed everything. It was a moment of kindness, a small act, a hand extended not for romance but for rescue, a dance not to impress, but to protect. Sometimes that's all it takes. One step towards someone else's storm, and suddenly you're dancing in the calm together. And maybe, just maybe, that's how love begins, with kindness, and the courage to take someone's hand, even when your heart is still healing.